No, why? Hello, and welcome to another episode of Break the Cycle. Me, your host, Joshua Smith. I hope everyone's having a wonderful week. We got an awesome show for you guys tonight. I'm very excited about this one. Not just because he's one of my patrons of my show, but because he's fighting the good fight. But let's start off with some sponsors. Of course, we have TopLobster.com, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend and partner on Break the Cycle, where you can get this great Wear the Mask cop shirt that I'm wearing today for 10% discount by using BTC at checkout, or you can join the Patreon, subscribe star, or become a member of this here YouTube channel at the join link below all of my videos, where it's like $6 a month, and you can get into a private Discord server where you can get all new Top Lobster gear up to 2 weeks early at like a 30% discount. So it's really worth it. And of course, executive producers of the show, anthemplanning.com, for all your emergency and crisis planning needs. Check them out today. See what they can do for your business, home, or personal life. They're doing a wonderful job that the government has historically sucked at, much cheaper and much more efficiently. Guys, we got a good one for you today. He's a young buck, just the young ripe age of 19. He is one of the hosts of Gumshoe Liberty podcast. He is also part of the Liberty, oh God, am I going to mess this up? The Aussie Liberty Coalition or Network. He is a young man trying to make a difference in the tyrannical state of Australia. How you doing tonight? Liberty Down Under?
Look, getting by as best I can right now.
Good, man. Yeah, I imagine it's a big mess there.
Yes, it is. There's always something new coming out every day we've got to worry about, basically. Yeah, it's daily tyranny. And there's a new law somewhere in the country every day.
Yeah, it's wild, man. We're watching over here going, hey, man, maybe we shouldn't give up our guns. It's probably a bad idea. But why don't we start? So you're a young guy, you're 19, you're fighting for liberty in a place where they are increasingly trying to take it away from you. But what's your story, man? How did you come to these ideals of liberty? What was that journey like?
I've had a very rocky journey. So I started out in 2016 supporting Hillary Clinton as a Social Democrat, as a SOC Dem, watching the 2016 election. Then, moving forward from there, in 2017, we had a same-sex plebiscite, a same-sex marriage plebiscite in Australia, which is a voluntary vote nationwide. Basically a postal survey to inform the MPs staying in Canberra about how to vote on that. So, I was more of an old school leftist, pro free speech, that sort of stuff. Talking to a gay and a lesbian at school, and they were basically saying like we shouldn't even let the Christian right speak their piece on gay marriage because their opinion is automatically wrong. So they don't have that right to have that free speech. So for context, where I am, Toowoomba is the middle of the Australian Bible Belt, basically. So very conservative. We voted against gay marriage 50.8 to 49.2%, I think. We were one of only a couple places to do that. So you're very, very Christian, very conservative. And hearing people say that we shouldn't even be letting people speak their piece because they're automatically wrong, really turned me off the PC left. But by 2018, I was watching Trevor Noah and John Oliver on YouTube, but then came across Stephen Crowder in Recommended and watched a couple of his shows, became basically a neocon by the end of 2018, thanks to Stephen Crowder. And then by 2019, in Australia, we've had 3 conservative prime ministers since 2014. They've been changing roles and that sort of stuff. So unlike America, where you guys elect your president and he's left the term, it's just the party, our prime minister is chosen from the members of parliament as the party leader, and the party leader then becomes prime minister. So we've had changes there. And I don't like the current guy we have, Scott Morrison. So, was turned off of conservatives by him and also by, I then came across Ben Shapiro. I didn't really like him. and then slowly came across the ideas of libertarianism, and that was really interesting to me. So by 2019, I started looking at classical liberal stuff and the like. By 2020, of course, I made it to minarchy, but as a law student, like I didn't feel like I could become an ANCAP and also become a lawyer at some point. I felt that those two didn't go together very well. Of course, what we've seen with Kinsella, that's definitely possible, but seeing the COVID laws that we've had in Australia basically pushed me over the edge. I was an ANCAP by middle of 2020, and then started, reading heavily about libertarian theories. So that's basically a summary of my journey to where I am so far. So in 4 years, went from a leftist to a neocon to an ANCAP.
That leftist to ANCAP pipeline is real, buddy.
Yeah,
it's real.
Yes, it is.
I mean, what are some of your favorite writers, economists, stuff like that? I mean, were you a big Rothbard fan or what?
Mainly Mises, but also Rothbard. They're probably my main two.
Sure. Have you made it all the way through Human Action?
No, but I do own it.
That's so hard.
That's to read. That'd be like a year's worth of reading there, basically.
It's hard, man. I'm on my third read through now, dude, and it's just like, and I've been reading it. I feel like I've been reading that damn book for 6 years straight. Legitimately, that's what it feels like to me. And it's just so hard, man. But it's good. It's just not a good starting.
Yes.
It's not a good starting point. That's for sure.
I tried reading Mises' Socialism, and that's a long read.
That's a long read too. Mises was very long-winded when he was writing.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. But so tell me about when this stuff happened. When this stuff started back in 2020, March of 2020. I was in California, which is like our little Australia here. Unless you count New York too. And I knew, I had this feeling, I was traveling all over the country, going to all these state conventions because I was running for chairman of the Libertarian Party here. And they shut me down, basically. They started shutting down conventions around the country, and I'm going, I feel like this isn't just going to be over real quick. This is probably, in my head, I'm like, we're probably going to be shut down for a couple of weeks. That was my first thought, And so when I wasn't able to go to work, because I worked in a skilled nursing facility, I had a stuffy nose or something. And they're like, you're going to have to get a COVID test. And they were only testing 500 people a week in California at the time. It was insane. Very hard to get a test. So I told them, I was like, well, you guys are probably going to have to find yourself a new maintenance director. And I hopped on a plane and flew to Iowa to be with my girlfriend for a couple weeks. So I'm just going to come hunker down with you for a couple weeks, and then I'll go home. And, that obviously didn't work out because California literally started a 24-hour lockdown 5 minutes after my plane took off. And I wasn't going home to that. And it just never changed, right? But I've been in a place where, in Iowa, where it's pretty relaxed. People are going about their daily life doing exactly the same shit they were before the pandemic. We're not, we don't have these like record numbers of deaths happening. We've been to Adventureland with the kids 6 times on the season passes. Nobody's wearing masks. Everybody's out at the bars and restaurants, and there's no social distancing. Nobody's doing anything here. What has it been? What was it like in the start of the COVID pandemic in Australia? I mean, because you guys have never had large numbers there ever.
No. We have more cases right now than we did at the start of COVID. So I spent the first month and a half, being like, okay, if it's here for like 2 weeks or a month or whatever, that's fine. Yes, it's because I started as a minarchist, but by the time we hit the 2 months in, so May, by the time we hit May, I was, basically we had to become an ANCAP, seeing, this isn't going away anytime soon. And we're seeing that still today, like it's getting worse and worse. Basically, with every day, there's a new law being passed. It's always getting like there's right now they've just said to Victorians that if you live outside of the state, you can't come back in without a vaccine. So we're at that point. So no one in 2020 expected to get this bad this fast.
So wait, are you telling me that if you travel outside of your like area, you have to get a vaccine to come home?
So right now there are 2 states with really, really strict border policies. My state, Queensland, we started it. We said, I think it was last week, the Premier, Anastasia Palaszczuk, said basically 14 days, we're going to close the border to all travel, even if if you're a Queenslander who's outside of the state, if you're in New South Wales and you're a Queenslander, have fun for 2 weeks. Because how we've been doing things here is instead of quarantining at your home, you had to go to hotel quarantine in like an apartment building or in a hotel or something like that. That there was government was covering, and that got full. And then she closed the border to all Queenslanders. Said you can't come back into the state for 2 weeks. And then, of course, within a few days, she let the wives, girlfriends, and children of 100 football players in.
Oh, sure.
But then,
of course.
But then at the same time, I think yesterday actually, we recorded the Gumtree of Liberty podcast episode 1 yesterday. We missed this by about an hour. Dan Andrews, the Premier of Victoria, said basically if you're a Victorian who lives outside of the state, if you're stuck in New South Wales because of their quarantine and their COVID rules, you can't come back into Victoria unless you get one jab of the COVID at least, one COVID jab at least. So if you're in the border bubble area, you've got 14 days to get an exemption. But for everyone else, if you don't get at least one jab of the COVID vaccine, you can't get back into your own state. That's the point we're at now.
That is fucking insane, dude. Like that's outrageous. Can you imagine? Like, look, you're gonna take this vaccine or you can't go home. Like that's far. That's even far further past what I thought it was over there. Like I was under the impression that it was pretty bad, but that's really bad.
No, it's even worse here. So that's the laws. The people support this and have been pushing for it.
Jesus. And how do
the people will ask these laws to be passed?
And of course they will. And thankfully we have half the country here is telling everybody to go eat their ass, and the other half is like trying to get people to be forcefully vaccinated. So it's thankfully we have such a big population and there's such a big contingent in this country. But you guys are a much smaller population. What was the population of Australia again? It's a
25 point something million.
Yeah, it's very small. I mean, it's like Texas, man.
Yeah, and considering that we're the sixth biggest country, so it's very population dense in a few points that compared to other places in Australia. So compared to say America, like Dallas or anything like that, it's not very population dense even in the major cities. But for us, it is, but the rest of the country is very sparsely populated.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, can't you guys just go take over like tons of land in the fucking in the outback and just like tell the government to get fucked? I mean, that's what
I think one guy did that in Western Australia. He formed his own country on his farm, but it was never he never got to do anything on it. And then when he died, he passed it on to his son, and then his son just abdicated. It was basically a monarchy with like just the family as being the citizens of their state, but it never really did anything. So it's a lot harder now to do that than it was back then. I think I don't know why exactly they are allowed to create their own state. I presume there was some loophole in the law or something like that. But yeah, it's very hard. Like even if you go out back, there's still police there, and I know in South Australia right now they've got the COVID app where you've got to send a photo of where you are to the police. You got 50, so they'll text you if you're in isolation or quarantining or something like that, and you've got 15 minutes to send a photo back to the police of where you are right now. And then if you don't, they'll come out and get you no matter where you are. So a lot of South Australia is pretty rural, but no matter where you are in the state, the police will come and get you.
That is legitimate, like 1984 shit, dude. Like that is crazy. You guys are all being treated like criminals, man. Like you're on house arrest, like legit house arrest. That's the kind of shit.
Prison island.
Yeah, that's the kind of shit they do on house arrest. I mean, if your PO calls you, you got 15 minutes to get it back to them where they're going to send the police over your house, or you gotta. It's the same thing as having an ankle bracelet, right? If you leave, they know, and they're going to come get you and they're going to arrest you.
In Sydney, at least, they've been doing door knocking. So the police would go around, do the rounds, knocking everyone's doors, make sure they're at home because they've got a stay-at-home order right now. There was one story I shared a few weeks back of a guy who left his house in his car to get some fresh air. The police came to his house. He wasn't there. They waited for him to get back. When he got back, he got fined for going in his car to get some fresh air.
Well, what are the fines like over there?
So it's quite high. I know they were looking at passing laws in New South Wales. If you organise a protest, it's $20,000 for a fine. If you incite protesting online and encourage people to go, it's $11,000, and actually attending is $5,500. I know that lower figure has been used in Victoria and New South Wales. I don't know about the two higher figures, but there was one guy, Anthony Kaloof, who was big figure on Instagram, 20,000 plus followers, and he was arrested for organizing protests and got 8 months in prison for it.
8 months in prison for organizing a peaceful protest.
Yeah, so there's a great video from the Victorian Police Commissioner last year saying, it's a human right to be able to protest, and that was when we had the BLM protests, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Is that suddenly changed? Suddenly, there's been a change in inherent human rights between 2020 and this year.
Oh my God, man! I really feel for you. I mean, so we're seeing all these videos online of people, especially it looked like Melbourne. I always say it super American-ish, and New South Wales. I think I saw they were like these big protests. I mean, huge fucking protests. There was tons of people at them. Right? What's going on with that? I mean, have they smashed those or what?
Yes, if they'll try and arrest as many as they can who go to them. In Brisbane, which is the capital of Queensland, where I am, the police just watched the protesters because it was peaceful and we weren't in lockdown. If you went to Sydney for the protest, there were around 1,000 cops out. Plus, there's 800 soldiers deployed in the city as well. If they needed them, they could call in the military. And they were arresting protesters there. And then in Melbourne, protesters had flares and the like, and they broke the police cordon, and it ended up in violence. You got police using capsicum spray and rubber bullets and that sort of stuff. Capsicum spraying, or was it pepper spraying children and that sort of stuff. There was a 12-year-old girl who wasn't wearing a mask. This is about a week before the protests, and the police, I think they're pepper spraying her for not wearing a mask, even though you have an exemption if you're 12 or under for not wearing. If you don't wear a mask and you're 12 or under, that's legal. But they went after this girl for being 12 and not wearing a mask. So that's the point we're at right now.
Oh, it fucking pisses me off so bad, man. It makes me so mad. We got a first super chat. Thanks, Rich Clark, $5 super chat. Appreciate you, man. He says, is it hard to get ammo in Australia? Australia needs 3D printers. Also, what's up with Quillette?
So I'll try and do those one by one. So ammo. It's about as hard as it is to get a gun. So to own a gun here, you've got to either be like rural, like a farmer, or you've got to be part of a gun range, a part of a gun club with a gun range. We do have more guns now than we did in 1997 after the gun buyback program. So the leftists will say, we've got more guns than we did then. So therefore, stop complaining about gun control. You have more guns, but the proportion of households that own firearms has gone down by 75%.
Oh my goodness!
Most people who are buying firearms already own firearms. Then with 3D printing, in New South Wales, it's illegal to own the information to 3D print guns. They tried to pass it in Queensland, didn't get passed here, but it was passed in New South Wales. And then with Quillette, they're basically Cato. Their support, like they were making the conservative case for lockdowns, and their founder, Claire, Lehman or something like that. She was going on and saying on Twitter and saying, mandatory voting is good. A lot of libertarians don't like it, but it's good. And I was in the comment section just not happy about that one because that's coercion right there. If you're going to coerce someone to vote, and then you're going to say it's good, don't be a libertarian. So I don't like gatekeeping, and I've been active against that on Twitter. Don't gatekeep for that sort of stuff. But when you're supporting coercion like that, I don't think you can actually call yourself a libertarian, because that's a key principle for libertarianism. No coercion. Yeah, that violates the NAP.
Well, let's talk about that. I don't think a lot of people understand what this is in Australia. In fact, it was something that I wasn't aware of until I because is it newer, the compulsory voting?
No, it's been about 100 years.
Has it been 100 years? Okay, I knew it was
Queensland. Queensland was 1915. We were the first state to do it by the mid 1920s. It was federally.
Is Sydney compulsory voting too? I thought there was a part of Australia that wasn't.
No, it's nationwide.
It is nationwide. Okay, so when I interviewed Senator Lionhelm several years ago, he was talking to me about that, and I had no clue that was what was going on in Australia. You guys are required to vote.
Yeah, and it's not even like on a on a weekday. It's every Saturday. The elections are always on a Saturday, so you've got to go out of your way on a weekend, go to the polling station, and line up to vote. I think that's been done because we have mandatory voting, so that way they can get more people through. But it means you got to waste your weekend to do it. And then of course I get flack from Americans and Brits for voting, for turning up the vote. But I'm like, if I'm going to be there, I might as well at least have some fun and, vote for minor parties and at least screw them over.
Right.
And make it a bit interesting like that. If I'm really going to be there, like, although, as an ANCAP, I'm like, yeah, voting doesn't do much. You can't vote your way to freedom. But the stance I've taken, I think I spoke about this on the Lines for Liberty podcast that I did a few weeks ago. And I said basically, like, I vote for libertarian parties, the Liberal Democrats, and they used, as you said, David Leyonhjelm was their federal senator that they elected.
He was great, man.
To federal parliament for 2 terms.
He was like Australia's Ron Paul, man.
Yes, yes, basically. That's what we do refer to him as. He's not as good as Ron Paul, but as far as Australians go, he's the best we have. He famously refused to pay the license to have a pool in his backyard and got taken to court for it and had to pay a fine for it, which is definitely at least he's showing that he's consistent and principled. But
I remember watching him read Mises like in Parliament. Like I watched him do it. That was before I had ever interviewed him. He busted out a book and started reading Mises in Parliament. I was like, oh my God, this guy's the best. I got to find him. I got to talk to him. He's great.
Yeah, he's pretty good. There's with when it comes to libertarian ideas, but yes, I vote for the Liberal Democrats, which is his party, just because if they get more votes, because although we can't win because having mandatory voting and then having preference voting, it means that the 2 big parties are mostly going to get in every time, because most people who don't care about the election are going to vote for one of the 2 big major parties that they know of, and they're going to get more of the vote. But the way I see it is, if you vote for libertarian parties, even if they're just classical liberals, then of course they're going to get more percentage of the vote at the end of the election. Then they're going to get more media coverage. People are going to, look at their platform, and we could win a few converts to the libertarian ideas. So even though, we can't create a political change with it really, or not to a great extent, you can win the cultural war. And I think right now in Australia, that's the biggest problem we have. We've got a culture of submission.
Sure. I mean, and we were talking about this before the show went live. I visited Perth, Australia when I was in the Navy. It was honestly one of the funnest 6 days of my life. I loved Perth, Australia. It was amazing. And it was so laid back. I mean, I had never in my life been I coming from big city California, or the suburbs outside of big city California and the big city California. I was used to this pace of life that was just go, 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 go all the time, just wild. You got to work 3 jobs. You got to try to go to school. You know what I mean? People are trying to raise kids. It's very hard to live there. And then I went to Perth, Australia, and everyone's like, hey, what's up, man? Hey, everyone's kind of slow and at the bars and going out to eat all the time. And it was just, everyone was so happy-go-lucky. It was just a culture that I was not used to at all. But that culture is kind of coming back to bite you all in the ass right now, isn't it?
Yeah, so that laid backness is a burden right now for us. A lot of people, will say online to myself and a few other Aussies, if only you had guns, then you'd be able to, stop this. But, well, America, you guys have guns and you still have tyranny. It's not as bad as it is down here, but it will get that way.
You heard that, America? You heard that? Damn. Go ahead. Sorry.
But basically, the argument I took is losing those guns in 1996 after the Port Arthur massacre is a symptom, not the actual illness itself. So the stance that I've taken is, if people didn't give up their guns, it wouldn't, stop tyranny per se, but it would show that we didn't have a mindset of submission. So the same mindset that caused us to give up our guns 25 years ago is the same mindset right now that people have submitting to the state. We've got people who, are calling the police, reporting on their neighbors, people who are saying that if you're anti-lockdown, you're pro-COVID and a traitor. So that mindset of submission to the state is the same mindset that caused us to give up our guns. So it's not the lack of guns per se, it's the mindset that caused us to have the lack of guns that I think is the main culprit here.
Are you saying that there's prison island snitches?
Oh, yeah, yes. So there's one guy on Twitter who I've got a group of about 3 dozen Aussies on Twitter. None of us like him. He's a guy called PR Guy. He's got around 30,000 followers. He's in Melbourne, Victoria, and he was saying, call the police, report a traitor. Famously said that if you are anti-lockdown, you're pro-COVID, all that sort of stuff. So it's very fun down here, but people are applauding tyranny, and they want it to be locked down to be harder and faster.
Yeah, at this point, it's hard not to be pro-COVID some days. You know what I mean? So. You know what I'm saying? It's like, God, can you just leave the people the fuck alone? Look, if you don't want to be around sick people, don't go out of your house, man, because people are sick. We've criminalized becoming sick. Like, we've literally made it a crime to get sick in the world, not just the country.
Yeah.
It's a mindset and a mentality that is going to take decades to reverse. Decades. And if we, the remnant of people who are still logical enough to understand that a lot of this is bullshit, don't stand up and push back, it'll take longer than decades. It'll take a century to get over this mentality that it's okay to lock us in our homes and stomp on our heads and mace our children and muzzle and mask our children. It's something that we have to fight back against, like, right away. Like, we cannot, and it's one of the reasons why I like people like Dave Smith being so urgent about it and Tom Woods being so urgent about it. It's like, no, we need to oppose this shit now, right now, not okay, we'll wait a couple weeks. Like, we need to be opposing it right now. Right now, we're all going to be Australia. It's all going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, unless we become the Australia or the America that Australians wish we were. No tax good guy, $5 super chat. Thanks, man. He said, what are the taxes like over there? Yeah, what are you guys got high taxes, right?
Reasonably high. I think the highest tax bracket is around 50% for the highest tax. I can check that now, but I know, for example, we've got a very high we've got a GST, which is a goods and services tax, which is 10% on all goods that aren't like fresh fruit and veg and that sort of stuff. So that's on basically everything. I think taxes, you got 42% on beer, 12% on cigarettes, plus the GST, and it's over 50%, I think, for like wine and that sort of stuff.
Did you say 42% on beer?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that
makes
me really
upset. I'm just trying to pull that up now, but I think it's 42% on beer, and it's 50% on 50+% on other types of alcohol. It depends on what the alcohol is, but plus they got the 12% tax on cigarettes tobacco as well. Yeah,
dude, that's crazy. That's insane. Could you imagine, like, you want to go have a beer and you got to pay almost 50% more than the price of the beer just to have a fucking beer?
It is more than 50%, because you also got the GST as well, which is another 10% on top of that. So it's even higher.
That's like some kind of sales tax.
Yeah, GST. So it's goods and services. So it's on all goods and services that are being sold. Yeah.
My God.
So yeah, the tax on gin and whiskey is 57%, third highest in the world, and on beer it's 42%, which is the fourth highest in the world.
My God, man. You guys are just getting slammed over there, dude. Every which way you look. Ryan Bredford, thanks for the $5 super chat. He said, for Josh's 900 kids building 40-pound gazebos worldwide. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. One of these days, I'm hoping that the gentleman who did the 900-pound gazebo Twitter post will come in here and drop a super chat. That would be savage if we can make that happen.
So I found this taxes. I found a tax rate for you.
Yeah.
So if 120,000 to 180,000 is 37%. 45,000 to 120,000 is 32.5%, and then the highest tax bracket is 45%. And I think that tax covers everything. We don't have like income tax for state and federal. It's all just I think it's all just done together, as far as I know. So it could be wrong because it's all one big bundle.
Yeah, it's all. So you guys don't have like a state tax and a federal tax. Not something that you guys deal with there. Because here we have the state tax,
yeah.
Then we have the federal tax, then we have sales tax, then we have tax to register our cars, and sin taxes and cigarette taxes and wine taxes. So really, like when I was living in California, you pretty much end up paying almost damn near 50% of everything you make into the state, anyways. So it's got to be close.
as far as I know, and I could be wrong, but we haven't had any state level income taxes since World War II, I think, from memory. And then, of course, you've got your local council rates and whatnot, but it is mainly the federal taxes, which is, mid 30s.
Sure, man. That's that's fucking crazy, dude. So let's talk a little bit about the Aussie Liberty Network, the Gumtree Liberty podcast. I keep messing that one up because I think gumshoe in my head, right? Like the sleuths, the detectives. But tell me about what you're doing, man. So you're trying to build this coalition. You're trying to get these people out here to fight back. What's going on there?
So the plan is with the Gumtree of Liberty. It's a play on Jefferson's Tree of Liberty quote, but with Gumtree because we're Aussies. So we've got the Gumtree. We're that little bit different to you guys. So we're trying to play on that. That was suggested by one of the people in our chat on Twitter. We've got about 3 Aussies in a Twitter group chat, and then I think about another dozen or more than that, probably like 18 or so in the ALN, the Aussie Liberty Network. And the idea with that is, to get up a website, we're going to be covering the news articles on current affairs and political articles, and also have our podcasts up there. So we've currently got this one or Gumtree of Liberty, and then we could be adding in a couple more. I think we're looking at doing one on economics. We've got 2 guys who are passionate about Austrian economics who are doing a podcast, possibly. We're trying to get that off the ground. So it is right now, it's still early days, but we are working on it. We've got we found an Aussie who happens to be both libertarian and a web designer. So we're paying him to design a professional website for us. So it'll take about another month to get it up off the ground entirely, but we are working on that slowly but surely.
Sure.
And yeah, so the Gumtree podcast, we did a live stream last weekend at 12 hours notice just to get it out in advance before we did the podcast, which was meant to be recorded on Monday. It ended up being recorded on Wednesday, our time, and then it's been up for about 12 hours on YouTube. And over the next 2 weeks or so, it'll be trickling out onto all the different podcatchers. We're just waiting them to verify us and that sort of stuff. But that is definitely in the works here.
Yeah, man, I know that struggle, dude. When I first started doing the podcast, I'm like, man, I'm only on one podcast app. What's going on here? And then like another day, you're like, oh, I'm on another one. Okay, cool. And then all of a sudden, you're on like 40, and you can't figure out where the hell your podcast is at anymore. People are like, what podcatcher are you on? I'm like, I don't even know anymore, dude. Like the RSS feed, the RSS feed has a mind of its own, man. It's still, even now. I've been doing the show. I started the show March of 2020 when I started doing audio episodes, like 4 episodes, and then I took a year off because life happened. And then I started back up again this March, and now I've done. Tomorrow will be my 100th episode since last March or this March.
I remember I followed you back in March of this year, and you then sent me a message saying that you just released your 8th episode.
Yeah,
and I had found you the day before, I think, and watched episode 7. So
I wonder.
I've been here since almost the very start for this podcast.
Nice, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're at today's 99, right? Yeah, this is episode 99. And so we will be at episode 100 tomorrow, dude. That's just crazy to me, man. It's like you're doing the show, but you don't realize how fast the show goes by if you're like doing, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yes.
I want to see what episode number 7 was now. What was the first show you watched? Oh, it was Drew Hancock.
Yeah.
Good old Drew Hancock.
Yes.
Love that guy, man. Let's see. We got some more super chats we can address here. Rich Clark, thanks for the $5 super chat. He said, America's guns allow us to drive the speed limit toward tyranny. Australia has no tyranny speed limit.
That feels like the Michael Malice quote, but yes.
Yeah, it's close. It's always about the speed limit in the liberty movement. Tyler Yonke, thanks, man, for the $5 super chat. By the way, Tyler Yonke will be coming on the show, I think, next week or the week after. I can't remember. He says 50% tax on Aussie beers, so taxes really do stifle ingenuity. And, because you guys are, what do you got over there? Foster's? Is that it? Actually,
Foster's.
Australians hate Foster's.
VB.
Right?
Yeah, most of us don't like it. We've got Foster's, VB, and Forex are the main 3.
No Budweiser? Are you guys? I always think it's funny when other countries have like Budweiser or Miller or any of that shit, and to them it's like an import.
We do have those, but they aren't made locally. Those are our 3 main. Oh, and Bundaberg as well. Bundaberg rum. There's a few.
Yeah, but it's like those are import beers to you. To us, they're just domestics and they're shit. And it's so funny because like I know there's other countries that are like, oh, Budweiser's the best beer, and I'm like, oh god, it's fucking horrible. But I don't remember what I was drinking when I was in Australia, man. I was in Perth and I went to all these nightclubs and shit because I was only 19. And it's like I had been to Hong Kong, Singapore, and then Bahrain a couple times, and then we were supposed to do this year-long world cruise, but then they declared war while we were in the Gulf, so it was like we only got to do those places, and then we went to Perth on the way home, and then Hawaii, and so it was like I was drinking in these ports because I was only 18, 19, but I was able to drink because other countries you only have to be 18 or even younger, and I remember just partying it up in Perth, Australia, dude. But we went to this bar called the Post Office, the Postal Service or something like that. It was a lot of fun. They had like live band and all this stuff. And then on the way home, we stopped in Hawaii and I tried to go to a bar and they're like, oh, no. You can't come into this bar. You're not old enough. I'm like, motherfucker, I just went to war and I was drinking 2 weeks ago in Australia. You know what I mean? Now you're gonna let me drink in my own country. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's 16 where I am in Queensland. So it's changes in every state, but it's 16. You can drink beer on private property with adult supervision, and then 18 to buy alcohol.
Maybe that's how they got you guys, because we got to be 21 to drink here, right? So maybe they relaxed you guys out at 16 with a couple of Fosters, right? And then they were like, and now we can get away with all the tyranny we want. They're all drunk.
Yes. Although I did hear that they're limiting the amount of alcohol you can buy in Victoria. I haven't checked that yet. I only was sent that this morning. But apparently they could be limiting the amount of beer you can buy to, I think, 6 bottles.
Okay.
Or cans.
Yeah, that's wild.
I haven't verified that, but that is possible. That was just sent to me this morning on Twitter.
Yeah, that's just the amount of it's like you have a government that is literally sitting around looking for ways to oppress you more. Like that's what they're doing there.
Yeah.
That's insane, dude. That's just absolutely insane. No tax, good tax. Thanks for the $5 super chat. He said, do y'all have Red Stripe there? Beer. Red Stripe beer? Have you ever tried it? It's Jamaican beer. It's good.
Yes, I have. If we have it, I haven't heard of it.
Comes in the little brown bottles. They're little tiny round bottles. I don't know. They're good.
I am more inland, so it could be it hasn't reached here because of the cost of travel or something like that. But I haven't heard of Red Stripe. No.
Sure. Rogue Liberty podcast. My good friend from across the pond. He says $5 euros, €5 super chat. He said nothing but love for Britain's cousin down under. Really concerned for what's going on there. How is Kanzuk is meant to work while Australia is like this?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Kanzuk myself, but For those who don't know, it which I'm guessing is a lot of Americans that wouldn't know, it's basically the proposal of Canada, Australia, UK, New Zealand creating like an EU-style network between those 4 countries, a EU-style network of some sort. It's been proposed. I don't think it's coming much into force. We do have the Five Eyes surveillance things which I think most Americans know about, which includes New Zealand, Australia, UK. So we are involved in that. I think New Zealand's in the Five Eyes. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Kanzuk myself as an ANCAP, and for the very basic idea, that it's basically 4 countries who are currently racing to see who can be the most tyrannical when it comes to COVID. But so if it was to become a thing, I don't think other states would really care because New Zealand locked down over 1 case, so they'd be happy to be with us because we're all basically very much similar.
Dude, New Zealand has such a low population that they could have got over with the COVID pandemic in like 2 weeks if they had just let it go. Instead, they're locking down every time they get 1 case, and it's just going to prolong it literally forever. They could have been done. It could have been over in 14 days. I mean, everyone in the country could have got it. 14 days, it would have been over. It just blows my mind.
So we laugh in Australia about, the government will lock us down over 1 case of COVID. In New Zealand, they will actually do that.
Yeah.
So it's low. If it's a low number, they'll do lockdowns here. But in New Zealand, it's like if we got 1 case, we'll lock down. But yeah, it has been the same sort of mindset here. Western Australia has had 9 deaths of COVID. Queensland's had 7. Actually, Western Australia's had 20,000 deaths since March 2020 from things that aren't COVID and 9 from COVID. So it's very much, very low figures down here, single digits for Queensland and Western Australia. South Australia, I think it's 4. So it's mostly single digits, unless you're talking about New South Wales and Victoria, which are also the biggest states and have the most population dense areas in Australia. So, but everywhere else, it's single digits, and you compare that to the tyranny we're seeing. It's like it's not even proportionate. So you're like, I know people who are more supportive of it because if the measures are proportionate to the risk the countries is facing, but right now, like the amount of measures, how strict they're going right now, like Queensland closing its borders entirely, when we've got 7 deaths since March of
2020.
Last year.
2020.
Yes.
Yeah, I was looking at the figures the other day. So a lot of your states have had like 500 to 1,000% more suicide deaths than COVID deaths in your states.
Yeah, so we have, I think, Victoria, I think it was 148 people, 148 teens were hospitalized every month this year for attempting suicide or self-harm.
That's just crazy, man.
I think we've had the most teenage girls commit suicide ever this year.
It's just it's brutal, dude. And it's like yeah, well, what do you expect when you got a bunch of teens who want to go do shit, especially in a place like Australia where like life is probably pretty fun before all this shit for young people. You can go out and do all kinds of fun stuff. When I was 18, it was like we got to go to the pool hall and drink in the alley. You guys get to like go out at young age and go to the bars and hang out with your friends. And now it's like all of a sudden, boom, you can't do any of that anymore. It's got to be brutal. It's brutal mentally everywhere for everyone. But that's one of those places where it's just got to be really bad, really bad. You can't share a Vegemite sandwich with your friends anymore, dude. It's rough. It's rough. We're gonna talk about that in the members only chat. By the way, your guys' Vegemite. Are you a fan?
Yes,
of course. We're gonna talk about.
Of course, I am. I'm an Aussie.
Yeah, it's like it's the stereotype. You gotta like it. Rich Clark, thanks for the $2 super chat. He said 19-year-old Josh spreading liberty down under. Yeah, it's true. It was fun. It was a good time. Not gonna lie. Australian women love American men. It's true. I don't know why. I don't know why it is. I was told when I was in the Navy. Oh yeah, it's like legal to beat your wife there, so they really like American guys. And I was like, huh? Is that true? I don't even know if that's true. Yeah, that's what I was like. I don't think that's true.
I don't think. No, as far as I know, it's not. I haven't come across anything in law, at least in Queensland, on that. No, but yeah, you look back to World War II, for example. There was like a serious concern in the UK about the number of UK women who were dating US soldiers.
Oh yeah,
and they came over. So it's a worldwide thing that's been there for a long time. Like America is being seen as so rich and athletic and sporty and handsome, that sort of stuff. It's that stereotype.
Yeah, I tried to drive a car there in Australia when I was there. That was interesting. I hit a lot of curbs.
Wrong side of the road for you guys.
Wrong side of the road. Wrong side of the road. Wrong side of the car.
Right side of the road, and yeah, but
yeah, and I'm just like, so like a right turn is on the right, is like usually you're on this side of the car, but you're making a right turn right next to the curb. It's really strange. It's bizarre. It's very strange trying to drive it. And I was driving stick, so I had to shift gears with my left hand, which is very strange. But the gas pedal and the clutch are on the same sides, like right foot and left foot.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So not too bad. Rogue Liberty Podcast, thanks for £2. Is that what they are? Euros, pounds, whatever, same thing. Spreading liberty like Marmite, Vegemite. Is Marmite and Vegemite the same thing?
No, Vegemite's got Vegemite has vegetable extracts in it, I'm pretty sure.
And what the hell is Marmite then?
So they are somewhat similar. Marmite is Vegemite without the veggie part.
Huh. What the hell is what is it in that spread, dude? I tried it once.
It's mostly based off of yeast and the like.
Okay, so it's just like a spice spread.
It's a yeast base.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No, it was like really salty. That's what I remember.
Yeah. It is salty, but we like our salt over here.
Yeah, it was like salty and really kind of not appealing to look at. That's for sure. But it didn't taste half as bad. It didn't. It really didn't. But Brits have the HP sauce. You guys use HP sauce over there? Is that something you guys use?
No.
No. Oh man, it's my favorite sauce in the world. But I understand why it's so good in Britain, because they don't use any spices, and so you have to douse your food in in some kind of sauce, so they just love their HP sauce. But so, what do you think's going to happen, man? What do you think's going on? What do you think you guys are going to be able to do? What's it going to take to push back against your government, man?
It's going to take a lot. Like right now in Victoria, Dan Andrews, the premier down there, who has a cult following, hashtag I stand with Dan. If you ever want a black pill, go on Twitter, look up hashtag I stand with Dan for 5 minutes, and you'll be black pilled. Basically, they're as bad as the Trump cult. Of course, they don't see it that way, but they are as bad as the Trump cult. He's got lots of support down there in Victoria, and he's literally said that if you aren't vaccinated, you're going to be locked out of the economy, basically. So, you're not going to be able to do anything at all in the market or in businesses or anything like that. You're going to be locked out of the economy entirely if you don't have the vaccine. And again, people are supporting this. We've had 2 elections since COVID started. We had, I think, November last year was Queensland's election, and then early this year we had Western Australia's election. Both states saw a swing towards the Labor government.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I mean, what are the Liberal Democrats? I mean, what are they like? Are they just nothing or what?
So it depends where you are. So federally, they're okay. Lionhound's pretty good. In Victoria, they're good. There's two of them in the Victorian upper house. The whatever they're called. I don't remember the names of it because we only have one house of parliament in Queensland. We don't have a Senate. It's just House of Reps, which is a whole nother story there. It's quite complex. But long story short, senators used to be appointed by the governor, who's the Queen's face in Australia. Labor appointed a bunch of their friends into the upper house and then voted to abolish it to pass laws. But basically in Victoria, in the lower house, Dan Andrews' government has a majority. The prime minister is based on whoever has the majority in the lower house, and then in the upper house they've got a minority, so they have to work with crossbenchers, which are minor parties, because neither them nor the Liberals have control of 51% of the Senate, so they've got to work with minor parties. There are 3 libertarians. Yeah, libertarians in Victoria. You've got the 2 Lib Dems, Quilty and Tom Quilty, I think is someone else. I don't remember their names. It's 2 states down. And Fiona Patton, who is a libertarian, apparently, who voted to support lockdowns. So go figure.
Yeah, libertarian. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but supports lockdowns and that sort of stuff. So, is she really libertarian? I don't know. Like, again, I don't like gatekeeping, but like if you're going to support lockdowns and that sort of stuff, you probably aren't a libertarian. So Lib Dems are reasonably popular in Victoria. So yeah, they've got the 2 in the upper house, and when they voted to close down the parks and that sort of stuff, these 2 MPs then sat on chairs outside of the parliamentary building to protest. They couldn't be arrested because they were parliamentarians on Parliament ground doing parliamentary duty, so they were there protesting, which is good to see. But federally, again, David Leyonhjelm's pretty good. In Queensland, not so good. They ran their first candidate at the federal level in Queensland in the Groom by-election, which was a few months ago. I think it was early this year. And they ran a guy who owned a vape store in my electorate, Groom, which is where Toowoomba is, in a state that voted in a seat that voted against gay marriage. Oh, wow. So probably shouldn't be running a vape store owner in that much of a conservative place.
No shit.
And then for the upcoming federal election, that's March or April next year, they're running Campbell Newman, the former state premier, who was a Liberal, then he's flipped to Lib Dems this year. Again, he's not very good. Queensland's been mostly a Labor state at the state level, and then Liberal at a national level, just because of how the seats are done in gerrymandering and that sort of stuff. But he turned a record-sized government into a one-term government, got voted out the next election.
Oh, wow.
Militarized the police, mandatory minimums for legal gun ownership. What else did he do? He did a lot of privatization, which people, chastised him for from the left. he had tough laws on bikie gangs and that sort of stuff. So like your rednecks basically. So he's not very much liked by libertarians, and he's claiming to be a libertarian. So he's going to do more harm than good up here. But yeah, definitely at a federal level, at least in New South Wales, which is where Lionhelm is, and in Victoria, they're pretty good. But in the rest of the country, not so much. Those are probably their strongest points. Those two states, and they're gonna. I reckon they might get another MP or two, senator or two at the upcoming federal election in one of those two states. But in the rest of the country, they're not really a force.
Sure. What's the weed laws like over there? You guys still super locked down on weed?
It's illegal everywhere except Canberra, or the ACT, the Australian Capital Territory, which is basically our version of DC. They have two senators at the federal level, unlike DC. So they're not a state, but they're also not a territory per state. But they call it territory, but they're not exactly like DC is in the sense of being a territory in that sense, because they do have MPs and two senators, despite being a territory. But they have legalized small amounts of weed for personal use, but that's at odds with federal law, which is made marijuana illegal. So every other state has made it illegal, which is really interesting considering that there was a study done that suggested that around a third of Aussies aged 14 or older have used illegal substances. I think it was, 2014 possibly, 9 million people over the age of 14 have used weed of a population of 25 million people. So we've got a high drug use rate. But it's illegal everywhere.
That's so crazy. That's how the states were too. Everybody here was smoking weed when it was all illegal, and now the states are still at odds with federal law and how they schedule their drugs, and but it's like every year, like 3 new states legalize it. So it's like at some point the federal government's not going to be able to do anything. They can't do anything about it now, but they're really getting close to a point where it's like they're going to have to deschedule it. I mean, they're going to have to 100%. But
given our taxes on alcohol and cigarettes, if they do legalize it, it'll be highly taxed.
Oh, sure. That's when they legalized it. When I was living in Washington, the first thing they did was put a 37% excise tax on it. It was like the first thing they did. It made it almost impossible for people to go to business. I think there was like 7 big owners there who could own them because they could afford to do it, and the rest of the people were like, we can't even afford to open up pot stop. You know what I mean? Because it's like 37% excise tax, and you still got to deal with the sales tax. You still got to pay your employees. Your employees got to get you got to pay your labor taxes. And it's a mess. I mean, people are giving 50% of their profits back from what they're making, and it's like they can't afford to run that way. Half mass Swanson, thank you for the five Australian dollars. That's what you guys call them, right? Australian dollars.
Yes.
Super chat. If you guys are interested in spreading some freedom, we have lots of oil in Bass Strait. What's Bass Strait? Where's that at?
That's in between Victoria and Tasmania.
Got lots of oil there. Hey man, you guys need a little democracy over there in Australia. We'll come and liberate you.
Yes. Please do.
We'll install some new puppet dictators for you. Absolutely.
Look, I don't support violence, but at this point, it's getting quite bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I did find the cannabis laws for my state. Supplying cannabis is 20 years.
Holy shit! Can you imagine 20 years for a plant, man? Let's see. Ryan Bedford, $5 super chat. Is there a Libertarian Dundee Outback badass next show, maybe? You guys got like some Libertarian Outback badass there, or what?
We've got a couple people from Western Australia, which is probably the closest you're going to get. So on the main Gumtree show, we're going to be doing it'll be split into 2 segments. There'll be it'll mostly be pre-recorded stuff, just because time zones and the fact that like we've got people from like myself, a uni student, to the other 2 hosts are fathers with their family, so it's hard to find time to record, so it's going to be all recorded. But we do have working on a live stream as well, which will be like with guests and that sort of stuff, a bit more like how you do things. But the best we have, the closest we have is probably Aussie centrist, who is a centre libertarian and from Western Australia, and he's one of the co-hosts on the main show. But yeah, he's probably the best we have in terms of more outbacky style.
Sure. Sure. It's funny. We grew up watching Crocodile Dundee, and it's like just automatically thought everyone from Australia was like Crocodile Dundee when you're a kid. And then you go visit there, and you're like, no, these people are kind of like me, just way more chill. Lots of surfers, though. You guys got a lot of surfers there.
Yes, I'm guessing you obviously know the knife scene.
Yeah.
From Dundee.
Of course.
That knife is illegal in most places.
Shocking. I'm shocked. I for one am extremely shocked. Man, they just bend you guys over.
It's the same sort of reason with gun laws. It's you've got to have a valid reason, which is mostly like being a farmer or being rural or something like that. But most people, especially in cities, you can't own that. You can't own a knife like that. There was a famous story a few years ago of a guy who got a knife and went on a stabbing spree in Sydney or Melbourne. And people chased after him with like wicker chairs and milk crates and that sort of stuff.
That's just
so self-defense is chairs and milk crates.
That's wild, man. So yeah, I got a new banner up there. It says the spiders are the good part of Australia. Who knew? And I feel like you guys need to just go around and collect spiders and drop them in Parliament and be like, good luck, and just walk away like a spider bomb, dude. Something crazy like that. These people are literally just they're out for your rights, man. You guys are gonna have to fight. I don't know what else to tell you guys. Like anytime I talk to an Aussie online, it's like all I can say is like, we don't want violence, man, but you guys are gonna have to fight, man. What else?
We don't really even have many rights. So we don't have a federal bill of rights.
Right.
I think we've got a couple at state level. We've got one in Queensland, one in Victoria. I think there's one somewhere else. But we literally only have 5 rights in the Constitution, and those rights are the right to a jury, the right to vote, freedom of religion, and then prohibitions against unjust taking of your property by anyone else. And then it's also illegal to discriminate on the basis of state of residency, which is,
what they're doing now.
Kind of being ignored right now with all the border laws. But we have 5 rights in our Constitution, and none of them are like free speech or anything like that. So it's all common law, done by the courts, and that's easy to be overridden by statute.
That's just wild, man. Well, I feel for you, brother. I really do. I hope that the Australians can get out of this. What do you got coming up next, man? Where can people find you, support you, listen to you, all that great stuff?
So you can find me at Liberty Down Under on Instagram, spelt the way that my name is on here with an ER in under. On Twitter, it's UNDR, just because you can't have 16 characters in your @ on Twitter. And then obviously Gumtree of Liberty podcast on YouTube. It's up there, and it's coming out on Spotify and that sort of stuff over the coming weeks. We've got a couple of live streams lined up towards the end of September. We've got one with CD McRae, and then we're possibly doing another one on religion and libertarianism towards the end of September. So we've got those ones coming up. We haven't finalized dates for those yet, but yeah, we do have. Make sure you go check out the that podcast, and when the website does come out, I'll also be promoting that one on my Twitter as well.
You're gonna have my coon ass homie CD McRae on the show. I'm excited.
Yes.
It's gonna be fun. No one's gonna be able to understand anybody in the entire show. It's gonna be awesome.
No, we're going to look at some of the legislation and case law from the courts with regards to interstate travel and border control.
Nice, man. Well, hey, man, I feel for you. I hope you guys can get some respite soon from the impending tyranny that you guys are facing. I will do anything I can to make sure I help you guys out. Just let me know what some of us Americans can do. But it sounds like you definitely got a fight on your hands, brother, and I hope you keep going.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can give me like 2 minutes, I'll shut down this stream and we'll start the members only stream to talk about Vegemite sandwiches.
Worries.
All right, thanks. All right, guys, another awesome show. Break the Cycle. He's a good kid, man. Go follow him on Twitter, Liberty Down Under, without the E at the end of the under. He's really cool, man. He's been following me for a while. We talk a lot. He's in my Discord server as well. If you guys ever want to join that, there's a lot of cool people. A lot of people who've been on the show are in there. Top Lobster and Angela McCardle and Stefan Kinsella and great people. So definitely check him out. Follow him. Check out his new podcast and support the efforts of Australian people trying to push back on tyranny, man. I mean, it's full-on despotism over there. So as for us here, guys, please check out my sponsors. Oh, no, let's talk about shows. Tomorrow is my 100th episode. And for my 100th episode celebration, I wanted to have a really cool show about the culture war. So we're going to do a roundtable discussion about the culture war with my friend Top Lobster, my friend and partner on the show, Top Lobster, stand-up comedian Adam Nutter, stand-up comedian Robbie the Fire Bernstein, and of course, hardcore political activist and founder of Black Guns Matter, Maj Toure. This show's going to be awesome, man. I want to talk about culture and how we can change culture. So we got two stand-up comedians, somebody who's trying to influence culture through art and somebody who's influencing culture in the Black community heavily through political activism and education on rights. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very interested for that conversation. And of course, on Friday, everybody's favorite nerd, John Hudak from the Fakertarians, will be here to get absolutely roasted while he tries to explain to me why I shouldn't have certain people that he doesn't find good voices for liberty on my show. That is not about debating, but tomorrow or on Thursday or Friday, it will be a bit of a debate. I promise you guys. Check out my sponsors, toplobster.com, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend and partner on Break the Cycle, where you can get this great Wear the Mash shirt that I'm wearing tonight at a 10% discount by using BTC at checkout, or you can join the Patreon and Subscribe Star, or right underneath all of my videos here on YouTube. You can hit the join link for $6 a month and become a channel member. Get into a private Discord server where you can get 30% off of all new Top Lobster designs up to 2 weeks before they go to the general public. Of course, if you become a patron or a Subscribe Star, you can get the custom Break the Cycle shirt for a certain tier, or you can get the mugs. There's some other swag there. You guys can get into the Patreon and see all the after hours content. If you join here on the show, you get the custom emojis in the live chat, custom badges that change color depending on how long you've been a member of the show. And of course, you get to watch all of the members only streams right after my shows for free. So check all that stuff out, man. I promise you it's great. If you're over there watching on or listening on the podcast apps, please come and subscribe to my channel at youtube.com/fightthedespots. If you're watching here, you can subscribe on all your favorite podcast apps if you are not able to make the live stream and help bump those numbers too. I would be very, very appreciative. And of course, executive producer of the show, anthemplanning.com, for all your emergency and crisis planning needs. Check them out today. See what they can do for your business, home, or personal life. They're doing a wonderful job that the government has historically sucked at, much cheaper and much more efficiently. I promise you by next week's show, we're going to have some new ads. I've been doing a lot of video editing. My fiance has launched her YouTube channel today. If you're into that crunchy mom organic stuff, she's doing really cool vlogs, and I'm actually doing all the video editing for it. I've taken my first dive into Adobe Premiere Plus, which is no easy feat, let me tell you. But I have had a really good teacher, and I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos to learn how to do it. And we've got her first video almost completely done, and it'll be dropping on Monday morning. So if you can go find Julia Annalise, Annalise, Julia spelled like July with an A, on YouTube. Subscribe, man. Give her a boost. She's a stay-at-home mom of 7 who's busting her ass, took in 4 kids that are not hers to support, and she's gonna try and make a name for herself on YouTube and social media. So go give her a follow. I promise the videos are good. I'm the one editing them. No one's had a video that's gonna be this good as their first YouTube video. I promise. And she could use the boost. Guys, I will see you tomorrow for the 100th episode celebration with Maj Toure and Robbie the Fire and Adam Nutter and my good friend Top Lobster. But until then, don't forget to break the cycle.
Due to legal reasons, I just have to explain. The lyrics of my last song may seem to contain a violent call to action in the verse and refrain, but I just landed in Minecraft. The helicopter part was in reference to GTA 5 and the things you do. So any violence you commit, I am not an excuse, because I just landed in Minecraft. A chipper is my friend and he's constantly cold. Accusations of incitement getting totally old. Make your own choices, yeah, you have control, because I just landed in Minecraft. Obviously I would never advocate force unless there's due process and a trial, of course. And if you're convicted, we will make you a corpse in Minecraft, just in Minecraft. Nothing on me and you know it. No product dinners, get some clothes from COVID. Holy shit, I think I'm